Calling to order the June 15th Capital Projects and Operations Committee meeting. Courtesy of the floor, nobody's here, so hearing and seeing none. Mr. Amelia, would you like to come up to give us an update on some of the capital projects? First on the agenda is the Government Center, the retaining wall replacement.
Yeah, so that project was out to bid. Bids recently came in on that, and we're still in the process of reviewing them.
Did you get a number of bids, I'm assuming?
It was a single bid on this one.
Single bid?
Yeah.
And I'm not going to, there's a number of items, so if anybody has a question, just raise your hand. Otherwise, I'm going to just keep moving along. Parking deck repairs.
That project also is currently out to bid. THA Consulting completed the design work on the project. It consists of various minor structural repairs and waterproofing measures just to extend the life of the parking deck for another couple years.
Fallen concrete and stuff like that?
Yeah, it's some spall repairs, beam repairs, where the T-to-T connections are. It's making some repairs to those areas. So like I said, I mean, this will get us through for another couple years, but the deck is very old. It's, it's to the point where we really need to plan for some sort of full-scale replacement. Just don't want to just trying to avoid any kind of large-scale failure.
When do you anticipate on starting?
This project would be starting this summer.
Elevator modernization.
Go back
Go ahead.
to that. How long do you anticipate the repairs to last? Because I was here the last time we repaired them. Maybe it was, what, 10 years ago, Linda?
The intent of this project would be to get, at most 3 to 5 years out of this these repairs.
So 3 to 5 years, and the cost estimate is $750,000?
That's what we had budgeted for. At the engineer's estimate that came back was pretty well under that. It doesn't always play out that way, but I mean, THA Consulting, our designer on this, they specialize specifically in parking deck repairs, so I have a little bit more faith in their budgetary estimate than I would on some other projects. But they're projecting it to come well under that number.
Now, are there any other options besides a 3 to 5 year fix? To me is very short term. Are there any other plans for the parking deck longer term?
Build a new one, hopefully.
How old is our current parking deck?
It was built in 1974, I believe. So going on 40 years. Yeah.
74, you said?
Yep.
So your recommendation for the longer term is for the deck to be rebuilt?
Replaced, yeah.
Replaced. Mr. Lott.
Mr. Lott, how are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. I'm not on the committee, but if
Go
you
ahead.
allow me,
Yep.
So when was that last, I know there was a major rehab done on that. How long ago was that about?
I believe that was 2017.
And how did that turn, I'm sorry, I missed the very beginning. Is any of this, and how did that turn out? Has that worked well, that renovation of that parking deck? And this is stuff on top of those issues, or is this kind of just the continuing deterioration?
The biggest part of that renovation project that was done back in 2017 was they put a whole new membrane on top of it, basically, which did its job for the past couple years in terms of keeping everything, waterproof. But, with time, we've had some leaks developing. A lot of the joints are leaking now. And, as you know, any kind of leakage through the deck, you're going to have corrosion of the steel, and it just kind of escalates from there.
So we got about five years out of that.
Yeah.
And just to fill you in, Mr. Lott, they have a budget of around $600,000 for repairs to the parking deck that they hope to get another 5 years out of. And then at that point, the conversation of possibly a new deck would be had.
Could I follow up then to how much is a new parking deck?
It depends on the size of it, but I mean, I'd probably in the range of 15 million.
For 2 stories, that similar to what we have now, or would you recommend it going higher, or?
I think the amount of parking that we have currently is sufficient, so the new structure would probably be of a similar size.
It's a lot of money.
All right.
Thank you.
Elevator modernization.
So we're continuing to run into supply chain issues. TK Elevator just reported back to us that they're expecting to have the material on hand at some point in early October. That's the best. They're trying to speed that up for us, but at this point in time, that's the best estimate they have.
Early October is when you anticipate on starting if their estimates come true.
Correct.
Generator replacement at the Juvenile Justice Center.
Same story with that project, another supply chain issues with the engines. So we're looking at, the latest estimate they gave me was about September for starting that project.
And who's doing that work?
Albarell Electric.
Mr. Cusack?
Yeah, before we move on, nothing on that, but before we move on to Graysdale, I wanted to bring up a couple of other things in the budget, and this one is particularly germane. Courthouse HVAC, we had budgeted $250,000. Seeing as how we've got these portable units going behind us, maybe if you could give us an update as to what the status of that is.
So the intention of that funding was to insulate some chiller piping that we have running in the basement that we have issues with it basically sweating in the summer and causing condensation issues throughout the hallways. So that was what that funding was intended for. And I'm hoping any minute now, we just pop the new motor in upstairs on this air handler, and that should resolve the issues we're experiencing today.
Did we budget for that? And if not?
That's just part of our normal operating expenses, so
Okay.
it was budgeted for.
All right. So is that $250,000 project still moving ahead that we had budgeted?
Yes, it is.
Is it out for bid, or?
Not yet. We're still in the process of, we were talking with some contractors just to get their opinion in terms of the best way to approach the project. Because at first we weren't sure if it would need to be full pipe replacements or if we could just get away with doing the insulation on the pipes. And it looks like luckily we just need to insulate them. The pipes themselves are in okay condition.
Okay. And the exterior walls, does that fall under the exterior repairs?
Yeah,
line item?
that's the retaining wall
Okay.
replacement.
That's all I had. Thank you.
Moving on to Graysdale, the roof replacement at the southwest wing.
So the Worco Group just completed the replacement of the EPDM roof above the southwest wing back in April, and that job is all wrapped up.
Beautiful. On time and on budget?
Yes.
Any questions? Flooring replacement?
So contract was awarded to Structural Workshop to design a new flooring system for the northwest wing. Just last month, they were out and they took core samples of the flooring to help basically just figure out what was wrong with the existing flooring so that they could specify an appropriate replacement in there.
What was happening with the existing flooring?
We have a lot of tiles that are kind of popping up and they've had to tape them down in certain areas.
Is it like a VCT type?
Yeah, VCT.
So you haven't heard back after they took the sample? They just took the sample recently?
It was a few weeks ago. I just spoke with them today. They have, they're waiting to hear back on the coring contractor with a few things, but they're getting close to finalizing the design on that.
Okay. The daycare renovations.
So 3 contracts were just discussed at yesterday's Finance Committee meeting. And if approved tonight, construction will commence on that this summer, and it will be wrapped up by the end of this fall.
And just for people that aren't up to speed on it, what is the general scope of work? Some partitions, some outlets in the partitions, and
Yeah, so what we're going to be doing essentially is converting 2 existing bedrooms into one larger room by knocking out it's a non-structural partition wall between them. So we're going to be doing that 5 times to convert 10 bedrooms into 5 daycare rooms. And on top of that, just some minor changes to the existing bathrooms, the existing kitchen that we have there so staff can prepare food for the children, some renovations to the exterior to create a playground area for them. So that's the overall scope of work on that project.
Yeah, on that project, how many beds will be taken out of service then? Are you,
Well, the whole wing right now is currently vacant.
what was the number of beds that,
It
would you know, or is that something for?
I don't know off the top of my head how many total beds were in that wing.
20?
Yeah, there were 2 or 4 bedrooms.
Yeah, but we're not utilizing every single room in in that wing for the part of this project. We're really only using half of the hallway. So, I mean, if I had to guess, it'd probably be somewhere around 50 or so total beds.
50 beds?
50.
Yeah, I think something to think about is that
Selling the beds.
if those are beds that we can no longer use, there's a value to those, and the county has sold beds before, and it's been quite a lot of revenue that's really that we're sitting on with no potential to reuse those beds. So I mean, it's probably not your decision, but I would hope that that would be looked at as a potential source of revenue to replace what we have there. So, but we're never going to use those beds again, so I think that we should consider a sale.
Nursing stations.
So we recently purchased nursing stations from Interior Workplace Solutions as somewhat of a pilot project to try out on the 10th floor of the tower. So those were assembled last month, I believe, and the overall quality of them was okay, but we felt like we could do better than what we got from them.
I saw some of the pictures.
So on the 9th floor of the tower, the operations maintenance department, they fabricated their own nursing stations. I believe they're currently wrapping up the ones on the 9th floor. But the feedback that we've gotten from them so far has been positive, and it seems like it's a better product for a lot less than what we had purchased from
How much
Interior.
did they spend on the 10th floor nursing stations?
I'm sorry, I don't have that number handy.
Any questions on the nursing stations? Generator replacement.
So that's the same situation as what we're seeing at the government center with the juvenile detention center. It's looking like around September to start that project.
It's not on our agenda, but are there any updates on the sidewalk project?
Yeah, so a contract was awarded back in March to professional construction contractors to construct a concrete sidewalk and a small block retaining wall to lead from the existing doorway in the courtyard that's between the northeast wing and the laundry building. It's kind of been an issue that life safety has mentioned to us on a couple walkthroughs over the past year or two. It's a means of egress issue for them because the door wasn't flush with the outside surface, and there wasn't really a great way to resolve that issue. And since this was
being like a tripping hazard?
it was, yeah, there was a couple feet between where the door exits and where the ground elevation was. And this was the area that we had planned to build the therapeutic garden in the past. So we're kind of treating this project as an initial step in getting that project built, that if funding becomes available to continue the therapeutic garden in the future, we can easily tie into what's been already constructed as part of this project.
I like that, planning ahead.
Can I?
Yep, Mr. Cusick?
A couple of other items that are in the budget that we haven't reviewed yet. The first one is bathrooms at Graysdale. Any updates there? We have a $203,000 line item for Graysdale bathrooms.
Not at this time. I know the O&M departments tried to, or they're working on adjusting or addressing some of the bathroom issues internally before we put out a larger scale contract for that.
Then the other item is the water tower.
That project was substantially completed last year. There's just some minor punch list items that we're waiting on the contractor to come back and address.
How long has it been since they've last been at the site to address them?
It was October of last year, I believe, they completed that. So I've just touched base with them this week to see when they'd be available to come back and do the minor touch-ups.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Graysdale? Moving on to the prison, D-tier renovation.
That project is all wrapped up at this
I'm
point.
gonna say, last time we saw it looked pretty complete. On time and on budget?
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
Weren't there some budget overruns because of asbestos or some other issues, though?
Technically, yes. I mean, it was something that we were, well, we were always, yeah, it was lead abatement, and we had intended from the beginning that we have a contractor that we use for all of our material abatements here at the county, that we had, worked on the premise that they would handle it for us. And then when they came in, they said they don't have the licenses for this specific type of job since it's a renovation rather than a complete demolition. So that forced us to ask the contractor to, perform the work for us, so.
So what you're saying is what we planned for was on budget.
Yes, yeah, that's a good way of phrasing it.
What came up put us slightly over. Do we have guests there now?
I'm not sure, that you have to ask Director Castora if that's operational.
Okay.
Concrete ramp widening.
So kickoff meeting was held last month with a structural workshop to design an extension for the existing concrete ramp out by the loading dock. Right now, the jail can't, the ramp just isn't wide enough to get some of their vehicles and equipment in and out. So this project would widen that ramp to provide them that necessary access.
Anticipating start this summer?
It's likely a fall start for that project, yeah.
Any other questions for the prison? Moving on to parks, pavilion replacement.
So the materials on site for the new pavilion at Wyattsuck Park, the contractor is scheduled to pour the concrete pad next week, and from there they'll proceed with erecting the structure.
Anticipated completion?
That'll be done this summer.
Louise Moore Park, the tennis courts.
Keystone Sports Construction completed the resurfacing, the repainting of the tennis courts at Louisemore Park. So 2 of the existing tennis courts were converted into 4 pickleball courts, and the other 4 tennis courts were just repaired and repainted.
The colonial bathrooms?
The new precast bathroom from CXT was delivered last month. All the interior plumbing work has been completed. The electrical work was delayed a bit by Med-Ed, but we do finally have it on their schedule to come out so that our contractor can install the service to the new building. And that project should be completed and operational in July.
This was like a portable bathroom that they were able to basically deliver and hook up, or was it? Yeah?
Yeah, correct.
The windmill.
No questions? Good question. Windmill?
The windmill, I believe the contractor's going to be starting that one in the next couple weeks.
Duration?
Probably, that should be done by the end of the summer, I would think.
Gonna have a lot of jobs finishing at the same time. Good job.
Before we move on, I know in the past we've discussed the Parks Barn. It's been on and off and on and off. Any thoughts on that? I know budget season starts next month.
Yeah, so we've been speaking with a company called Blue Scope Construction that is on a cooperative purchasing agreement. So we sent them plans in terms of what we're looking for. They came back with a budgetary number. We asked them to sharpen the pencil on that, so to speak. At this point, I think any day now they should be submitting the revised pricing back to us for consideration.
And you would anticipate that would be in the budget?
We do have funding available already in OSI County Parks, and there's some in the capital projects org that would cover the cost of it.
Oh, so you could do it now? Is that what you're?
Yes.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Not on the agenda, but do you have any updates on the Mincy Lake improvements?
Yeah, Wilmer R. Schultz is currently working on that project. They've installed new bituminous walking paths and concrete jetties. Another precast bathroom from CXT is getting delivered. It was either today or tomorrow on the east side of the lake. So that project is progressing well.
Great. On to energy performance contract with Johnson Controls.
JCI completed the installation of the remaining lighting upgrades since the last Capital Projects Committee meeting. So a certificate of final completion was issued in May. At this point, we're now in the measurement and verification phase of the project, in which they essentially monitor our utility bills and our utility usage, just to ensure that the savings that we were promised on this project are actually being realized. So we're going to be receiving an annual report from JCI for the next 5 years, basically summarizing their findings and ensuring that we are realizing those savings.
And what were the savings that were promised or at least advertised?
It was somewhere around 20 million over the next 25 years, I believe.
Any questions? Update on the bridges. You can go right down your list. If you have Bridge 8.
The new pre-stressed concrete plank beams were installed by NILEAV in late March. They've completed the concrete approach slabs. They recently completed the paving. The guide rail installation is scheduled for next week, and the project will be wrapped up by the end of June.
I drive past it every day, every day. I guess the one concern that I would have is that Fry's Run Park has been used as a staging area.
No.
I'm assuming that they will clean that to where it will look to the way it did 5 years ago.
Absolutely, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Bridge 15, Meadows Road, Lower Salcombe Township.
Still.
They're still wrapping up the design, and the permitting was submitted recently. So the latest update from PennDOT is that we're still on track to get it out to bid in January next year.
So we won't be looking until the spring start, right?
Yeah.
They did
And then
that.
Bridge 74, Douglasville Road in Bushkill Township.
You haven't had a comment?
I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay.
It's not, it has been demoed and prepared for construction, though.
Correct, yes.
And that was a couple
So the
months
bridge is
ago.
just out, waiting to be rebuilt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which was a big step, because that bridge could collapse and would have caused a lot of problems if that happened. So it
Gotcha.
has been removed and secured. Thank you.
Bridge 74 in Bushkill Township.
That's in the final stages of design. Our designer, Carroll Engineering, they've been going back and forth with PennDOT on their structural adequacy review phase. And simultaneously, since it's located inside of Jacobsburg State Park, the process of getting the easements from them has been a bit more challenging than some of your other bridge projects, and working with National Park Service. So that phase is still ongoing. At this point, I would expect it to get out to bid maybe the tail end of this year.
Do you have, did the engineers give you an estimate duration time for that project?
It's only a superstructure replacement, so I would assume it should be done within 4 months of starting.
That's complete on the list. Anything else that you want to talk about, Mr. Mealy?
No, that was all.
Any questions for Mr. Mealy?
Yeah, just this always comes up at the budget, the Route 33 lighting. Do you have any updates or anything going on there? 'Cause
What exactly about the lighting?
it is are we fulfilling our responsibility for, I believe it's what, is it the Wind Gap exit and,
Yeah, we're responsible for the lighting at all of the highway interchanges along 33 and 22. So we are fulfilling that obligation.
okay.
Yes.
I saw him up there the other day replacing some lights.
Belfast.
Well, if there's nothing else, it's adjourned.
Okay.
Do I need to get a motion to adjourn a committee meeting? No. All right. Thank you, Mr. Miller.
Done. Next meeting at 5.